Well, of all of the objects I've used, and I've used some precious objects in this house, this is perhaps the most esteemed. At least the most esteemed by my two teenage children. It's the Wi-Fi router. You know, when I was a kid and we went to people's houses, we used to say, "Hello, how are you? Thank you for having us round." Now it's, "Hello, how are you? Thanks for having us round. And what's your Wi-Fi password, please?" Well, actually, the letter of 2 Peter is a bit like a Wi-Fi router, because what Peter is writing to those churches is a letter that says, stay connected. Things have got a bit worse since the first letter, and some people argue about whether Peter actually wrote the letter or whether it was just attributed to him. I'm not so sure that matters. The point is the same. For the early Christians, things have got worse as Nero is persecuting Christian communities throughout the empire, but particularly in Rome, from which Peter is writing. And so he writes to encourage those rural communities throughout Asia Minor, what we call Turkey. Remain strong, stand firm. And he starts by reminding those Christians that everything they need has been given them by God, out of his divine power, out of his divine glory and goodness. Everything they need has been given to them. They've gained everything. They need nothing more. So don't be alarmed. Don't be worried. Stand firm. You are connected to God. And he uses 3 Ps, like any good preacher, in order to explore what those early Christians have gained. They've gained power from God, they've gained the promises of God, and they've gained the opportunity to participate in the life of God as well. So though they might feel small and oppressed and persecuted, they are secure because they are enmeshed, wedded to, embedded in the very life of God. Ultimate power, ultimate truth, ultimate life. They are secure and safe in God's glory. So it's a strong connection then that these early Christians have that Peter wants to encourage them about. But he also warns them, be on your guard. It's a bit like the internet. It's a great thing. It gives us all kinds of opportunities and all kinds of possibilities, but there's also a downside to it as well. Spam email and people out there who are trying to scam us. And Peter says, watch out for them because they're after you. They'll be persistent. They'll try and deceive you. They'll try and undermine you. They're after everything that you've got, but don't let them have it. Well, that sounds a bit intimidating and a bit scary. Well, says Peter, you do not need to be scared. You do not need to be afraid because everything you need has been given to you. So be on your guard and grow in grace. Root yourselves in the scriptures. They'll help to keep the connection strong. They'll help to remind you of what's important. It's a bit like continually reading reminders from your bank. Don't do such and such. Don't do such and such. Do this in order to keep yourself safe. Well, the scriptures will do the same, much more than just about law and guidelines. No, they'll refresh us in this very life that is ours with God, given to us, everything that we have gained from God. So, says Peter, there's much to be secure about, much to rejoice in, but also be on your guard, stand firm. But ultimately, says Peter, everything we need has been given to us. There is much to celebrate, much to rejoice in, because God has given to us his power. He's spoken over us promises which will remain eternal, and we can share in his divine life. Well, as Peter faces ultimate reality and his very own death, this is his ultimate legacy as he hands over the baton to these early Christians and say, over to you. Live out all that you have been given. Live out all that you have gained and rejoice in God's glory and God's goodness. To Peter.